Hi, I'm Debbie Forshey-Choma, and I would like to share a few tips with you today on how I maintain the straight edges along the outside of my lighthouses or on the other structures that I paint in my scenes. I have been asked if I use a stencil or possibly tape the outside edges off with painter's tape before base coating in the areas, but my answer is I use a see-through graph ruler. See-through graph rulers come in many lengths. I prefer the 6-inch. I'm also able to carry that in my brush tote. I use the 12-inch for larger designs. These are one of my major painting tools. So let's get started. First, we want to trace our pattern. We want a nice firm surface. Lay our line drawing down, and if you feel necessary, with a piece of tape, tape your tracing. And we're going to start with the graph ruler and a nice sharp pencil. Lay that graph ruler along any straight edge of the line drawing and drag the pencil along the ruler's edge. Move to the next straight line, drag the pencil along the ruler's edge. What's nice about this ruler being see-through, you can see where you have been and where you are going. So you want to trace any of the lines that you feel necessary to transfer to your surface for base coating. And as you see here, we're going to start out with a nice straight tracing. The next step is transferring to our surface. Once you've decided where you would like that lighthouse to be on your surface, you might want to tack it down with a little piece of tape. In this case, our background is a light color base coat. So I'm going to use gray graphite, sneak that underneath, and taking the ruler, but this time with a stylus, you want to line that ruler up along a straight edge and drag the stylus along the ruler's edge this time. And with the ruler being see-through, you can move to the next line. You can see where you're going. Drag that stylus along the ruler's edge. And the next one, transferring any of the lines you feel necessary for base coating your lighthouses. So then when we remove this, you can see we're going to start out with a nice straight transfer. Okay, now with base coating, let me show you how I load my brush. I have my palette paper here. I like to use brushes that are shaders when I'm base coating anything square or rectangle. I like the Majestic line made by Royal. These hairs hold a nice ratio of paint and water in them. They maintain a nice chisel edge, which is important when you're trying to keep these nice straight edges. Also, there's nice spring action when you want to base coat. When base coating, you want to use a brush that is not too large for the area that would distort it, or a brush that is too small so that you're going to see all the brush stroke marks. So let's put out a little bit of slate gray on my palette here. Now when loading my brush, I am not a dipper. And what I mean by that is, dampen my hairs here, I do not dip from the middle of the puddle of paint. I sneak some paint from the side edge here. And as I am picking the paint up, I have a little bit of a nervous shake. That starts the paint working into the hairs of my brush. Okay? When coming to my surface, I do not want to start right along the edge. I'm going to get too large of a ridge buildup of paint. I always start in the center area, work my way out to the edge, take some of the paint off the hairs, and drag that edge. Every time I load my brush, I come to my surface, and in that area, I start in the center, working to the edge, covering that with paint. And I'm always pulling towards me. I'm able to maintain a better control of the brush so that I can keep that straight edge. Now when I'm going to turn my work to do the other side, but remember every time you load your brush you want to start in the center. This way you don't have a ridge buildup of paint along that outside edge, or when you're wanting to paint two colors that butt up next to each other, you don't have ridge buildup between the two. It's nice and smooth. So I hope this helps you when you're doing any type of lighthouse or structure scenes in the future to help you maintain some of those straight edges. There's a couple other tips I'd like to share with you regarding the See-Thru Graph ruler. What's nice about them too is that they bend. So say you wanted to transfer something to a curved or round surface, the rulers bend. And then I also use them to mark off lines on my buildings. So as you see on the ruler, it has these graph marks, eighth, quarter, half, so on. What I do is when I want to mark these lines off, I do not use a tracing. I come in with either a chalk pencil or a graphite pencil, depending on the base color of that building, and I lay the ruler down and mark off my wall lines. Move my ruler, mark off the next wall line. So let me give you an example of that. I'm going to use a marker here so you can see better. So say I'm going to lay my ruler down and I'm going to drag the marker right along that edge. And say I want my lines to be a 1/4 inch apart. So the 1/4 inch graph mark, the red line that's on the ruler, I would place that on the line I just pulled and then pull myself another line. So you have a nice perfect spacing in between. Lay that 1/4 inch mark on the last line we just pulled and pull myself another line. So you have nice spacing between your lines. So when you come over to your surface, rather than having to use a tracing, you could just go straight with a ruler. And we would mark off our wall lines. And in this case, I believe I got them about 1/2 inch apart. And then you would place the lines on with paint and your liner brush. I hope these were some helpful hints today, and I enjoyed painting with you, and we will see you next time.